Hello, and welcome to this unit in which we are going to look at 20th century criticism and understand what is called, what is known as the modern period of English literature. And I'm Dr. Shyaonti Talwar, who will be taking you through this unit. Right. So, what is actually the modern age or the 20th century? In fact, the 20th century saw a bewildering variety of critical theories, approaches, attitudes, and practices. And why was this? Because of the emergence of various disciplines and the path breaking discoveries in disciplines like anthropology, psychology, linguistics, sociology, and economics, which not only had a tremendous impact in their own fields, but also impacted the literary scene. So, if you look at the 20th century, it saw two major world wars and the Holocaust. So, these were things that impacted the thinkers and the critical minds of the age. And in fact, the world wars left England so devastated with a sense of loss and a sense of being in a cultural vacuum that a faction of critics would fall back on uh, tradition and would try to revive uh, the classical school of criticism and the tenets of classical criticism and classical literature. So you had T.S. Eliot, who was a proponent of and who strongly believed in the revival of tradition. On the other hand, in the realm of poetry, you had the rise of Imagism. At the fore of this movement was Ezra Pound, and Imagism was a technique which was used in poetry where very simple words were used to convey solid, tangible images. And it also advocated the use of vers liber or the free verse. Besides this, there were a number of foreign influences. So you had the German influence in the form of Karl Marx and Marxist sociological criticism, which treated literature as a reflection of changing social and economic patterns. So the literary text had to be seen as a dynamic field through which society's functionings became apparent and patterns of exploitation emerged. So, this was something which Marxism came up with. And then you had Italian Expressionism, which was reflected in broken, fragmentary writing, which was supposed to represent the fleeting images that crossed or that passed through the writer's mind. In addition to this, you had French surrealism, which manifested itself in art that was supposed to be inspired by dreams. And you had the philosophy of existentialism, the manifestation of which was the theater of the absurd. Then you had psychological criticism. At the fore of this was I.A. Richards. Plays were seen from a psychoanalytical perspective with breakthroughs in the realm of psychology through the works of psychologists like Freud, Jung, and Bergson. So, to give you an example, classics was began to be read differently. Shakespeare's Hamlet was no longer about the prince who was in a predicament or who was fighting his hamartia, but it became the story of a man who is not able to overcome his Oedipus complex, who is in love with his mother. And obviously, this could be attributed to Freud's coming up with the whole idea of Oedipus complex. Right, then you had textual criticism, where the critics were opposed to any kind of biographical, historical, or comparative analysis, and they believed that the text should be seen only as an isolated body without any external influences. Then you had symbolistic and archetypal approach, which was diametrically opposite the textual approach, which established the presence of extraneous elements like myths or patterns, which are the common heritage of mankind and which keep recurring and manifesting